Mr. Chair.
Jan Logie.
Mr. Chair, I rise to speak to part 2 of this bill, and firstly to say that the Green Party would really like to be able to support this bill, and if, hope against hope, we get support for our SOP, then we will happily support this bill, because we do recognise that identity fraud is a significant issue and causes much stress and hardship within our society, and is something that is deserving of proactive legislation to redress. However, I guess for us it is a matter of balancing harms, and we have a concern that this bill, as it is currently framed, while it talks about fraud a lot, it also opens up a system for employers to provide pressure for people to have to provide information that they are currently protected from having to provide. So in the Human Rights Act 1993 protects job applicants from discrimination on certain grounds. And employers should only ask questions in the process of employing somebody that relate to the requirements of the job and how qualified the candidate is for that job. And we have recognised that there are very common bases that people are discriminated, grounds that people are discriminated on. That may be their date of birth, nationality, their sex, gender identity, pregnancy, marital status, religious belief, colour, race, nationality, disability, age, political opinions, etc. Now, we have the Human Rights Act to protect people against that discrimination because we know it exists. My real concern is that this bill is going to open people up for having to disclose information that will trigger that discrimination, whereas at the moment they're protected from having to give it. As an example, when I apply for jobs, I put in my CV, I never put my date of birth. I know it's a basis of discrimination, and that people over the age of 40, it's much harder to get a job. I never provide that information to give that in. And I know that in this country, people have been advised to change their name, to anglicise their name, to be able to get interviews. And my concern is that this bill will open up that process that will give employers that information without having to ask for it directly, and therefore not being open to a challenge for a breach of the Human Rights Act. And I'll give some examples of that to prove my case around, in particular, the age discrimination and the discrimination on basis of ethnicity. And the Human Rights Commission has done a report looking at a fair go for all and looking at some of the racism in employment practices. And within that, they gave an example of a 22-year-old job seeker who had moved to New Zealand from Syria, and he was told that he should change his name to something more Kiwi to be able to get an interview. Another example of an Auckland-based civil engineer applying for a graduate position within an architectural business in my hometown of Invercargill, and the hiring manager asked for more details around who he was, trying to determine his ethnicity. So asking for a photograph, his country of origin, and how long he'd lived in New Zealand. Now, when the applicant asked why he was asking for that information, he was told, well, unfortunately, any southern New Zealand client would possibly think twice about dealing with anyone with a Middle Eastern name. So this bill, the employer's not even going to have to say that. The employers, they're going to ask for that information because it's about verifying their identity. Whereas in this situation, the person said, why are you asking for this information? And then was told, and got a clear indication of discrimination, whereas that is not going to happen under this legislation, potentially, which is a very real concern. Another basis of discrimination in this country is around age, and research that was done in 2006 through the Auckland University. Mr. Chair.
The Honourable Nathan Guy.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I wish to take a call on part two. It's interesting listening to the debate in the House tonight. I'd like to make a few comments.